So I just want to start by thanking all of you for coming today. As some of you, I hope, already know, the Alameda Post is a local news site. We started at the beginning of this year, and we are dedicated to covering all of Alameda, whether it's Bay Farm all the way out to the very tip of Alameda Point. Thank you. And for now, we are an online publication. You can find us online at alamedapost.com. We are a nonprofit organization, which means we are dedicated to the community, we are independent, and we are not going to espouse any one viewpoint or promote any one candidate. We're here to give all Alamedans viewpoints. You know what? It is hard to actually speak with a mask on. Although I have encouraged everyone to mask up while you're here, I am going to have to take mine off for a moment. But one of our commitments this year has been to educate everybody about the election. I hope you've seen our candidate election page on our site. If not, it's at alamedapost.com/election. And there you can find information about all the local candidates, the local measures, people running for office countywide and some state offices, but all of the offices that are particular to Alameda, you can find information there. I also would like to thank all of the people who helped make this event possible. First, I have to start by thanking Amy Wooldridge and the Recreation and Parks Department, as well as Morris McKay and Bob, who is here today but not here right this second, from ARPD, who helped us set up this room and made this room available to us today. I'm actually very happy we could be here. Some of you may know I ran for city council about 12 years ago, and one of the events I did was in this room, back in 2010. And one of the events I did was in this room as a candidate, and it's really fun to be here as the presenter this time. And I'm really happy that all the candidates were able to make it today. I also want to thank the West End Arts District, who's our fiscal sponsor. Although we've applied to become a 501c3, we haven't yet been accepted. The IRS is very slow. And we applied in March, and we hope to hear back by Christmas. And in the meantime, they very kindly agreed to process all of the contributions and sponsors that we got for this event, and without any charge to us. But the sponsors of this event I would like to thank include Catherine Beerwith of Windermere Real Estate and the Guy Bloom Real Estate Group, Kyle Connor from the Alameda Theater, Dorothy Freeman, Jeannie Graham, the Reverend Nancy Joy Gordon, Rich Krinks and Berkshire Hathaway Drysdale Properties, the Law Office of Richard H. Polson, Christopher Seawald, and I would also like to thank the people that are helping us produce this event today, the music company who are providing our audio services, and Castaway Creative, who are recording this event so that we can present it on YouTube for those of us who are not able to attend in person today. I'd also like to thank Rachel Campos-Diavanoff for all of her help preparing this event. She knows a lot more about scheduling and preparing events around this town than I do, and so she's been a real fount of information, and I am really grateful for her help. I'd also like to thank my partner, Ben, who isn't here today, for all of his help in supporting me getting this event off the ground. I'd also like to thank our moderator, Karin Jensen, and all of our staff from the Alameda Post, some of whom are here today and some of whom who couldn't make it, for all of their hard work, taking us from an idea at the beginning of the year to now we are a website with 14,000 unique visitors per month. We have a newsletter that has over 1,200 subscribers. We have a podcast that is Alameda's only weekly news digest. We have over 1,000 fans on Facebook and Instagram, and almost that many on Twitter. And so we've really come a long way, and it's a really proud moment for me to go from an idea I started at the end of last year to standing in front of you, being a part of the discussion of what's happening for Alameda's future. So thank you all for helping be a part of that. As I mentioned before, we are a nonprofit, and we exist because we have members and people who support us. If you're not already a member, I hope you'll consider joining and supporting our local independent news and the community that we're building up. We are looking in the future at perhaps having a physical publication, but for now we're staying online. But it takes a lot of people and a lot of hours to produce what we do, so anything you can do to support us would be gratefully accepted. And we thank you for your time today. I would like to also let you know we're going to be doing some fundraising in the next couple of months. So if you are part of a larger organization who is interested in being a sponsor or working with us, please speak to me. We're also going to be selling advertising. You may have noticed a few ads on our site already. We will be having banner ads on our website and ads on the podcast and in the newsletter. So if you're interested, please contact me and I can tell you how you can sign up for ads. And now, let's get on with the program. Please allow me to introduce our moderator today. Karin Jensen has been covering city council and boards and commissions for the Alameda Post since we started. She is a proud Alameda resident for over 25 years, and she is also the author of The Strength of Water, which is an Asian American memoir forthcoming from Ballastier Press. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for joining us, and without any further ado, may I please pass off to Karin.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, candidates, and good afternoon, members of the audience. I am honored to be here. I know we all appreciate how much this role affects our everyday lives. Without further ado, I will introduce each of you, and you will each have 1 minute to tell us why you are the best candidate for the job. Going in seating order, I will begin with Mr. Barack Obama Shah. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd just like to thank all of you for being here, as well as Alameda Post for putting this together. This is remarkable. We get to be with one another again. So my name is Barack D. Obama Shah, and why I am the best candidate here, I am the candidate for change. Many times as I'm speaking to the Alameda residents, they're happy because they're like, okay, well, we know everyone else, and we're looking for a change. We're looking for someone to make a difference in what we really care about. So I am interested in what you care about. I measure my success by your success, because without you, there's no me, and that's what I have for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Council Member Trish Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the Alameda Post. I want to do a little plug for Mastick Senior Center. How many of you are members of Mastick? I am too. On your 50th birthday, you can join Mastick for free. It's part of Alameda's Rec and Park Department. Lots of free programs here. I highly encourage you to come out and support Mastick Senior Center. I also want to thank Amy Woldrich, our Director of Rec and Parks, for being here and what she does for our community. I'm running for mayor. I was mayor before the last 4 years. Sadly, many of my friends and I think that our city's gone in the wrong direction and that we need change now. It's very important. We need safe neighborhoods. We have out-of-control crime. Many of you know someone or yourself whose car has been stolen, catalytic converter taken, things like that. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft.
Thank you, and thank you to the Alameda Post for sponsoring this, Adam Gillitt, your staff, and all the hard work. Thank you for all of you for being here. This is the first and maybe the only in-person candidates forum of this election. So it has been my honor and privilege to serve as your mayor these last 4 years, including during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm grateful for the way our city weathered that storm, putting in place protections for vulnerable residents, struggling local businesses. Some of my accomplishments during that time were establishing the Mayor's Vaccine Task Force. We actually staffed a vaccine clinic in this very room, Feed Alameda, to keep local business restaurants open while helping vulnerable residents. My priorities are housing, transportation, and addressing climate change and sea level rise. We've made a lot of progress. We've opened a new Seaplane Lagoon ferry terminal, built more housing, still so much more to do, and I am ready to do it for these next 4 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. For this next set of questions, you will each have 2 minutes to respond, and I will go in changing order. The first question comes from our readers, who ask, what are your concrete plans for managing traffic on and off the island to accommodate all of Alameda's new housing? We'll begin with Mayor Ashcraft.
Thank you. You know, when I'm out walking door to door in the neighborhoods, which is where I'm going right after this forum, because that's why I've got my comfortable shoes and casual clothes, and I've been walking in different neighborhoods across the neighborhood, one of the things that people tell me consistently is, Mayor, we understand the need for our city to be part of the solution to the housing crisis in the Bay Area, in our city, but how are we going to move those new residents on and off the island? And it's a great question. So what I'm proposing is we continue to strengthen transit, because we don't just want people driving their cars, their gasoline-powered cars on and off the island, contributing to greenhouse gas, which leads to global warming, sea level rise, which is an existential threat to our community, our island community. So we have to give them transit options. Quick example, I had to be in the city the other night. School board candidate Ryan Lalonde was at the same event. I hopped on BART from the Fruitvale BART station, took Muni Metro, walked a half block to my destination, did the same thing on the way back. We can do that. By the way, Alameda is on the short list for a BART stop when BART does its second underwater extension. We are prolific BART and NAC Transit riders, so I support that. I'm also actively advocating for a bicycle pedestrian bridge from the west end of the island. It's a matter of environmental justice. It's a matter of cleaning up the environment, because on the west end of the island, if you want to take your bike or walk to get to Oakland, your only option is to go through the tube. All of the bridges are on the east side of the island. So giving people viable options. We opened a new ferry terminal in 2021. We're increasing ferry service from all 3 of our stations, and we'll be doing water taxis soon. We've got some funding applications in place. Those are my ways of getting people on and off the island. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Obama Shaw.
Okay, you skipped it. You went around a little bit, huh? No
I'm changing
problem.
it up.
Changing it up. Awesome. So ways of getting people on and off the island. One of the things I'm interested in doing is looking at actually the traffic. So in terms of having a pedestrian and bicycle pathway for people, to have people, perhaps having people going down Pacific, you know, because it's a street that we could use for, you know, the cyclists, people walking down that street, which would make a difference with the traffic is that way. And the other thing that we can do is get in communication with the police departments and see which beats that they are working upon, and have them to help us to make a difference with the traffic, to have the flow coming on and going from that direction. One last thing I'm interested in doing, getting people in and off the island, is getting in communication with the Department of Transportation to create a light rail to go over the Oakland Bridge, and where it loops around Alameda. That's a little bit more of unfolding to put that together, but they do have the funding, so we can create something of that sort. And that's my answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Council Member.
And can you repeat the question for me?
Yes. What can you do, what are your concrete plans for managing traffic on and off the island to accommodate all of Alameda's new housing?
Thank you. Okay, I asked her to repeat that question because the latter part, the last part, is critical to accommodate all of the new housing. How many of you drove here to get here today in a car? How many of you came here in a car? Raise your hand high so we can all look around. Okay, now look around. Okay, almost everybody came here via a car. There is no good solution for this amount of building on our island. Bart is not going to be here in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. If we're lucky, it'll be 20, 30, 40 years if people here, if it actually ever happens. The thought that we are all taking the bus to get everywhere all the time, it's not true. We just saw almost everybody came here via a car. I did too. I should have raised my hand. I came here via a Prius 2010. I get good gas mileage, but it is gas, okay? That's the reality. Many of us cannot afford a brand new electric vehicle. We just can't afford it. We are dependent upon, even though I get good gas mileage, it is still gas. I take the bus, I take BART, and I've taken it because I had a bicycle accident 4 years ago where I was seriously hurt. I am not going to be riding my bike again, per my doctors, right? But if you take bus or you take BART, there's something that actually is very, very sad that's happened. They're not safe right now. I've encountered multiple incidents on both of them, and you hear about it on the news. So that's a deterrent. Many people do not want to, get on the bus and then have an incident occurring where you're like stuck on it. So we have some serious problems. At the end of the day, there are no concrete.
Time's up. Sorry. Thank you. Our next question. What can you do to encourage civil political discourse so that people who do not agree on an issue can come to a compromise instead of an impasse? We begin with Mr. Obama Shah.
Okay. So what I would do is, number one, is create a training so people can come together and look at how to do it, and how not to do it, and the consequences for just, blowing off the handle, just being in a reaction. Like, no, let's work toward responding to what people are talking about, because everybody has a valid point. Everybody's viewpoint should be acknowledged. Now, we may not be able to have those viewpoints to actually work out in reality, but it is their viewpoint and they deserve to be listened to. It's when people are not listened to, that's when they're upset. It's almost like you're dying. You're talking to someone and they're not listening to you. You know they're not listening to you, but they tell you they're listening to you, but they're not listening to you. And that is one of the most frustrating things in the world, just to talk to someone and to be heard. And that's what I hear with a lot of people are telling me, that actions are being taken and they're not being listened to. They're like, hey, this is my Alameda too. I want people to talk to me and hear what I have to say. So if we can just create that kind of situation to listen to people, what they have to say without interrupting them, without correcting them, without telling them this means this means that, just to hear everything they have to say and then give back to them what it is that we heard, right? That would cut down a lot of frustration, a lot of people upset about the way the streets are smaller, and they're upset about that. So if we could get to hear what people have to say, whether we agree with or not, we want to at least hear what they have to say first, and that's what I would do.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Ashcraft.
Thank you for the question, and it's really important because for a number of reasons. It makes it really painful to watch a meeting if everyone is sniping at each other, and also I'm really concerned about succession planning. I want good people to run for local elected office, and I encourage my board and commission appointees to consider running for elective office. I tried really hard this election cycle to encourage some folks that I thought had a lot of talent from Alameda to run for city council. I got no takers, and they told me things like, Mayor, I could never do what you do. I don't know how you must have the patience of a saint. I don't. But how you can sit up there and the things that people say. But the thing is, when you break it down, it is really such an opportunity to communicate with your fellow residents. It's why I love going door to door in the neighborhoods and talking to people one-on-one. But I think we have to start by modeling that behavior when we're in public meetings. And the League of California Cities, I know Councilmember Herrera Spencer and I are both members, and they'll have seminars on how to run a good council meeting. We don't get the best examples on the national level. I think you might agree with me, but we don't have to emulate that. We're Alameda. I like to say we're a small town of almost 80,000, but you're going to run into someone. You might have had sharp words with them, but you're going to run into them in the grocery store, so you just want to be pleasant. But I think start with ourselves, maybe think. I will say social media, the courage of the keyboard, they say, and some of the things. Think before hitting send. Think before posting. Would you want someone to talk to you that way? Is there maybe a more civil way to? It's fine, as candidate Obama Shaw said, we don't have to agree with each other, but there's no reason we can't disagree, state our views, but with civility. So I encourage all of us to take that message to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. So I agree with the other candidates that are up here in regards to their suggestions. We have a serious problem in regards to, I think, social media. A lot of people say stuff on there that honestly they would never say in person, I hope, to each other. So I think seeing people in person, like here today, I think this is actually great to be able to see people in person, talk to people in person. And now I think as we're moving away from COVID and we're having more in-person events, I personally support opening up the council meetings and allowing you all to come to a city council meeting, express your concerns in public to us. I think honestly it's better for all of you and it's better for us to get to hear from you directly like we are today. I like the public. I like hearing from you, and I love the interactions. So I was at the farmer's market. I go to the farmer's market. I see other people there, right? And it's fun. It's fun being out, seeing people. But I think trying to do more events in person, I think that will actually reduce so much of the tension and comments that we see, sadly, on social media that's really become a large part of how we interact right now because of COVID. But I think it's really time to get back to all of this. I do want to thank all of you. I personally, I'll just tell you, and many of you know this, it feels like, I might feel the same way to all of you, I feel like I get attacked ruthlessly on social media. And I'll tell you what my response is. I do not respond to those people. They actually tag me sometimes and will say, how come you don't respond? I don't respond to that either. I actually only respond to people that I think are making reasonable comments and making reasonable comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question also comes from our readers who ask, how will you keep Alameda a safe environment for residents, visitors, and business owners? We'll begin with Councilmember Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. So that's actually my first point in regards to, if you look at my 3 points why I'm running, safe neighborhoods, smart growth, which to me is, if we're going to have to build more for the middle so that we can stay here. And third, it goes to common sense traffic solutions. Safe neighborhoods is critical. I support our police chief's recommendations when I think that they're reasonable and data-based. It takes 3 votes on council out of the 5 of us to actually be able to implement his recommendations. Sadly, the current majority, which is the current mayor, the vice mayor, and council member John Knox White, do not always support his recommendations, so he's not able to actually do his job. He's, I think, a very competent chief. I think we are lucky to have him, but we need a council that will actually give him the opportunity to implement his suggestions, such as, and I'm going to, His recommendation was to have license plate readers on fixed points of access as well as on the cars, the police cars as they're traveling throughout our town. We know it's not the only way to address crime, but it is one suggestion he has. Our council, with the vote of 3, so as myself, Councilmember Daysog, and the mayor joined us on that one, we could get to 3. However, in regards to having the plates on the cars, we couldn't get to 3. A lot of our crime is internal. He wasn't able to implement that. It really does matter. This election matters. It's actually the primary reason why I am running for mayor. We've got to be safe here, or we actually should not be living here. I was physically assaulted myself last November.
Time's up. Thank you. Next, Mr. Obama Shah.
So I've had a meeting with the Chief Joshi, and we talked about his experience and how he came from Oakland, and he looked at the police force, and he created 12 different beats because they didn't have beats here. And he also let me know that he's on track as far as meeting the quota of having at least 88 new a staffing of 88 police officers here. And I got all of the confidence in him for doing that. The other thing that he mentioned was he's up for our city to be the safest city in all of California. That's what he's up to. And to cut the theft situation in half. And we're going to create a situation where we have neighborhood watch, right? And we're going to work with the police officers to see what you can do, that you're not the cop, you're not the police officer, right? So people can know what they can do and what they can't do. The other thing I'm interested in, my platform is children are safe in schools. So I want kids to know that they're safe, you know, and so we had to just get rid of this throwing the police officers under the bus, this kind of thing, bashing the police officers. They have a position of honor, and we need to respect that. And I'm up for people just really getting that, learning that, re-educating themselves of they have positions of honor. I mentioned to a school teacher about having the police to come in, and she's like, oh no, don't bring the police in. Don't believe the kids are afraid of the police. So that doesn't work on my watch. So I want to alter all of that because there's no way you can go in a world where there's not authority.
Thank you. And Mayor Ashcraft.
Thank you. So when we talk about keeping our residents safe, you know, there's different forms of safety. There is safety from crime, and I'm going to spend some time on that and maybe clear up some misperceptions. And there's also health and safety, and that's why I worked really hard to make our residents safe during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's also environmental safety. So we have to protect our island from the threats of climate change and sea level rise, and I'm happy to say we're working on all of those. So let's go back to the crime issue. I was a bit perplexed to hear that I don't always support the police chief. I work really closely with our police chief, Nishant Joshi. I've supported all the initiatives he's brought forward, and I've fought some that were attempted to not have Alameda have an emergency response vehicle. I fought that. And reducing the police budget by 42%. I fought that. That was ill-conceived. But what I have also done, and by the way, I'm proud to have the endorsement of both the Alameda Police Officers Association and the Alameda Firefighters Association because I support public safety, and they know I do. I've also had the pleasure of attending 2 police academy graduations in Oakland because our chief, who came to us after 23 years in Oakland PD, has arranged for our officers, our new officers, to go through their academy. I've always been invited to speak to the very large gathering, and I'm thrilled to say that Chief Joshi says we're going to be fully staffed with that complement of 88 officers by early 2023. And even better, those new officers look like our community. They represent every type of diversity. They're men, they're women, ethnic diversity, multilingual speakers. It's really exciting. It's good for Alameda. And the other thing that I just want you to know is that we are looking at data-driven approaches to addressing crime where it occurs. Thank you.
Time's up. Thank you. Our next question is, why do you think so many city managers have come and gone from Alameda in the past decade? And what can Alameda do to hire and retain a long-term city manager? We'll begin with Mayor Ashcraft.
Well, thank you for that question. So let me just first start by saying what I can tell you, because I can't take you into closed session, I can't take you into personnel negotiations or interviews, but we are currently in the process of hiring a new city manager. We have done our first round of interviews from a very strong field. We have asked a number of candidates who made the cut to come back for the second interview, and presumably the last interview this week, in fact, this coming week. And what I hope is that we will have a new city manager seated by the beginning of 2023. There is a process, once a decision is made, then the deep background checks and things will go on just to make sure that there's no, skeletons in a closet or something that we would need to know about. So that takes a little bit of time. So I'm always hopeful, new beginnings. So why have we had so much turnover in other years? I mean, you read the papers, you follow the news, you followed grand jury investigations as well as I do, so you know that part. The other part, I have to say, I can't take you into closed session. I can't tell you the difficulties that city managers have had with some members of the council, but I will say that that has certainly contributed to the turnover. Now, we had a very competent interim city manager, Dirk Brazil, who was here for a number of months. Sadly, he was commuting from Davis. He had lots of experience, but then he was also the caregiver for his elderly parents, and a health emergency arose, and so he had to step down. But we've had a number of interims, but I think we're coming to the end of that, and I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Council Member Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. I actually want to go back to the former question real quick. In regards to the armored vehicle, before I got back on council, the vote was 4-1 to get rid of it, and the mayor voted to get rid of it. Once I came back on council, remember Daysog was the only one that voted to keep it. Once I got back on council, she switched her vote, thank goodness, to keep it. So it was 3-2. It is important that we have the armored vehicle. In regards to the turnover at city manager, Jill Kymack, when she came to town, I actually did not vote to hire her. I was concerned she didn't have the experience that we really needed, because we have our own fire department, we have our own police department, we had MARAD back then, we don't have them now, but we actually have our own electricity. We have all these things that usually a big city has, so we need a very experienced city manager to make it work. I didn't think she, however, I'm going to say I was able to work with her. She stayed with us until the end when we had this investigation. 2 council members, you all know, Vice Mayor Vela and Council Member Jim Odie were investigated. And it was after that that we found out that the city manager had been taping them, and we had all of that fallout, right? That was very expensive for our city. Moving forward, I wasn't on council when they hired Eric Levitt, but you can watch public meetings. I don't have to talk about closed session meetings. You can hear the mayor cut him off at some point and say something in some of these meetings, things like, you won't be ready for 2 weeks. You can't have it come back sooner. I will talk with you later. Comments like that. I think that might impact why he's no longer with us. But moving forward, we really have to work together and hire someone that is competent to able to handle our diverse city.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Obama Shaw.
I like to move a little bit, not dance, but move a little bit. So imagine this is a chalkboard, right? All this is a chalkboard, but it's filled with writing, okay? So if this chalkboard is filled with writing, we can't create anything and write something about what happened last year and this and that. We would have to first clear the chalkboard. So that's what I would do. I would make sure everybody on council, whatever it is that they're dealing with, we write it out. What did you like about the last person? What you didn't like? Do you have anything against me? Do you have anything against her? To get all of this garbage out of this space, all of this mess out of this space to where the chalkboard is clean. Is your chalkboard clean? Is your chalkboard clean? Well, let's stay here a little bit longer until you get there, and then when we can get there, just like being in the courtroom, you want to ask, can you be unbiased, right? But if we're not checking to see where people are standing, or they're holding grudges about people and things of that sort, that doesn't work. Now, for the new city manager, we're going to sit them down and like, hey, this is the track record of the city manager. This is the legacy. This is what's happening right here. Hey, we recommend that you not take the job, because it's going to be for a tough person who can do this. We recommend that you not take the job. And given what we said, are you still willing to be the best city manager we've ever had in the city of Alameda? Yes, that's the person we're going to hire. That's what I would do.
Thank you. Our next question is more of a general job interview question. It is, tell us about a mistake you made and what you learned from it. We'll start with Mr. Obama Shaw.
In a job interview?
Tell us about a mistake you made and what you learned from it.
Oh. A mistake I made one time when I was entering in the sales profession, and I was there to be of service. And there was a lady that came in, and I wasn't quite sure if she was expecting or not, and I just assumed she was expecting, and she wasn't. Oh, my. So I said, okay, well, let's find you a salesperson that can help you. And so, because I knew that my assumptions, to not assume something, to ask questions, to not assume that people are together, are they friends, to actually find out. And that's what I learned from it, to actually find out instead of sticking my foot in my mouth. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. This is a great question, honestly, because it causes me to stop and reflect about my votes, right? And I appreciate Mr. Shaw here coming up with his mistake. But when I look at my votes, honestly, every single vote, I would vote again the same way. I spent a lot of time researching the issues, and then I make what I think is the best decision at that time, at that moment. Now, moving forward, looking back, there could be some votes that I would change. And it's actually tricky to try to figure out, okay, so, because for me, that's honestly the most important thing is there some vote out there that I would change in hindsight? And when I think about that, I'm actually going to say the ferry out here at Seaplane Lagoon. I did not vote to have the ferry because we already had the one on Main Street. And so I would have liked to have, if we're going to have, and we have one on Bay Farm, I would have liked to have had a third one not so close to where the other one is to try to have them farther apart. And I think we really have to work on that so that other areas of our community have access to the ferry. However, it has worked out well there. And and honestly, if you haven't been out there, I encourage you to go out and check it out. It is really pretty. I think they did a really good job on it. And so it is a part of moving forward, trying to come up with an alternative way of transportation. I think that location is actually, because sadly, the current Main Street one, there are car break-ins there. We know that. The location has honestly not been maintained. It's very unfortunate. And I think a lot of people feel better taking the one out of Seaplane Lagoon, too. So there's, multiple reasons why I just feel like that's
Time's
a good
up.
decision.
Thank you. And Mayor Ashcraft.
Thank you. So I'm going to draw from a recent experience that I had with a council issue, and that is we are talking about some treatment on Grand Street, and from Ensenada down to Shoreline, we've had a number of accidents, sadly, a couple of pedestrian fatalities, including our beloved supervisor, Wilma Chan. So when it came to us back in June, this item, I had safety concerns. I'm a big bicycle pedestrian advocate. I know how fast people drive on Grand Street. I know how hard it is to cross the street, and we've got lots of school kids and others trying to cross the street. So I posed specific questions to our staff, to our city engineer, on the planning staff, about the safety. So where else can you point me to where this treatment has been done in a residential setting, and what were the outcomes? Were there any unintended consequences? And can you tell me that this, I called it zigging and zagging because that's sure what it looked like on the drawings, won't lead to unintended consequences like other accidents? And so the initial answer is, I don't know where it's done before, and I don't know. Then I met with him a week before the meeting, and I posed those questions again, and he seemed to be listening. But then when we came to the council meeting, he didn't have any additional information for me. And so that caused me to vote against the proposal, because I need assurances about safety, and I need them from city staff, not from a fellow council member who might be into transportation, but city staff. So after the meeting, it really troubled me that I never got my questions answered. So I pursued that, and I'm happy to say that new information has come to light, and so we will have another chance to take a look at that information. But what that taught me is not to assume that just because you've asked for information that was rightfully due to me, that we're going to get the answer. I had to really, and maybe even look to other sources.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our final question. What strategies would you like to employ to address homelessness in Alameda? And we'll start with Councilmember Herrera Spencer.
Thank you. Some of you may know that our city started this CARE program recently, and I pushed very hard for that program. That was a 3-2 vote. It was Vice Mayor Vela and Councilmember Knox White that joined me in what we call Fire First. And I really wanted to have a first responder interact first with our homeless when we get a call of people that are nonviolent and need services. And we get calls like that. So how are we going to respond? And so the idea of a first responder and fire applied was, I thought, a good idea, and it's really worked out well. And then I suggested Alameda Family Services to couple with them. I reached out to them personally. They did not know that this was an opportunity available, and so then they applied, and they were chosen to work with fire. And it's very important that we connect people to services. There are services that people do not know about or are unable to take advantage of. The program is doing very, very well. There's a recent report, but it was supposed to come to council. It didn't. We didn't hear it that night. It's going to be coming back, but you can see the data. And what's fascinating, at least to me, is the demographics show that it's actually our young adults that are quite often utilizing these services. And Alameda Family Services is in our high schools. They're also in our Mastick Senior Center here. They know our community. It was started by a teacher back in the 70s. And so we're very fortunate to have these resources. And it's important that we connect people that need the resources and in a user-friendly way, which is, I think, what we've come up with. So I'm very proud of that program, this new outreach that we're doing.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Ashcraft.
Thank you. I consider the housing crisis one of the top issues we have to deal with, and that includes having the availability of housing for all different income levels. It includes keeping people from housing insecurity, and it includes keeping people from sliding into homelessness, and also from addressing homelessness and ending it, and it is within our power to end homelessness. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. There is no reason that we should have people sleeping under freeway overpasses in bushes. Every city in the state needs to do their part, and that includes Alameda. So sadly, efforts that we have tried, legitimate efforts that are just bound to succeed, have been thwarted, including by Councilmember Herrera Spencer, and that includes the Wellness Center, 100 spaces. It's assisted living for frail, elderly, homeless who are dying in the largest numbers on the street. Time after time again, including at the present moment, this group of opponents has thwarted that effort, and that for 3 years. We also have the Dignity Village, transitional housing out by the College of Alameda. My opponent voted against it. We have the day center at Alameda Point. We have safe overnight parking. We have the warming shelter. But we have to do all of these things and more. We can't spend our time and effort trying to say, oh, don't have homelessness in our community, but then complaining about the problem and complaining about the solution. So we have to take that moral stand to say it is under our watch, we are going to do something about it, and with the right political commitment, we can end homelessness. And I'm gratified that the vast majority of Alameda residents feel that way, but still a small minority has been able to fight the Wellness Center. We can do better. That's what I will do. Thank you.
Thank you. We will wrap up with closing statements in seating. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Mr. Obama-Shaw.
Quick, but I didn't remember that one. You're great, though.
apologize.
Thank you so much. No problem. That's part of my platform as well, homelessness, and working with people from the inside out. I think it's great to get people connected to services, but I think more importantly, let's get people connected to themselves, not just we're going to do something for you. We're going to do something for you. But no, let people know, like, hey, find out, what's your story? What's your story? What's your story? Getting people connected to their story. How did you get here in the first place? What happened? Where was the breakdown? Was your family there? Do you have family? Do you have kids? Where are you from? Do you have an education? To find out, like, well, wait a minute, let's source these people to get them back on the right page to figure out how they got there in the first place so they can figure it out. So we can figure it out together, document that. Then we connect them to services, because then when we connected to services, now you got a whole person there. You got a person that with a future to live into. They had a past, right, and they're still experiencing their past. But when we start to get in communication with them, we could work with them toward completing that past and seeing, okay, this is what you tried before. Okay, why do you think that didn't work? Okay, you tried this before. Okay, let's see why that didn't work. Well, let's have this particular situation work for you, because I don't want to see you here on the streets no more. Matter of fact, I want you to come here, and all these people around you, I want you to be the example. That's where I'm standing, for you to be the example, to bring your brothers and sisters who are out here on the streets off the streets, because when they see that you can do it and that you did it, they know that there's victory for them, because if you could do it, they can do it. That's what I would create.
Thank you. So we will wrap up with closing statements, and you will each have 3 minutes to make a closing statement, and we'll go again in seating order. So I will begin with Mr. Barack Obama-Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I like to say in 3 minutes, okay, got it, a little less now. I like to say my name is Barack D. Obama-Shaw, and I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I was born Cecil L. Shaw III. I'm from a family of musicians. My family was mentioned in the Ray Charles movie, so I was very proud of my family and my musical legacy. When I was in the military in 2013, I changed my name to represent service, leadership, and making a difference. At the time, Barack Obama was the president of the United States. I've always drawn hope from Barack Obama. That's a man of hope for me. And I'm looking to be that man of hope for you all, for everyone, and for myself, because it's quite a legacy to live up to be an Obama Shaw. So, and I'm standing for people knowing that they matter. I'm standing for people knowing that I'm going to be raising my hand if I'm elected to that Constitution. I'm not raising my hand to my opinions. I'm not attached to my opinions. Our current mayor may have come up with an idea today that I'm not attached. I'll say, well, she came up with the idea and we're going to implement it. Because all I care about is what works. I don't care about being right and my way or the highway. I'm for whatever works for the people. The people are happy. We haven't broken any rules or regulations, and we're making a difference for people, and people are happy to be alive. People are happy to be in the city of Alameda. I'm interested in people, when they're getting ready to swipe their card at the end of the year, to start figuring out, I'm coming to the city of Alameda, because Alameda has a tourist attraction now, to where we're bringing millions and millions and millions of dollars into Alameda. And then people can actually start to be a part of something that's special, to have an identity, to know Alameda as an identity, just like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old that doesn't have a purpose or have an identity. They're going to be all over the place. I want people to know that we have an identity like Las Vegas, like Hollywood. We know why they're going. Like Hawaii. Like, why are you going to Alameda? Well, it's lovely people with these Victorian homes. They're just bright smiles. They're success-driven. We want to go to Alameda. That's what we're creating here, and that's what you have to look forward to with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Council Member Trish Herrera Spencer.
I want to get back to thanking you all for being here. I think this is a very positive, encouraging forum. I want to thank my other candidates for being here. We're all trying to help Alameda be its best. My website is trish4u.com. My phone number, I give it out all the time. You're welcome to call me, 510-761-5123. I am running to be your mayor, first because I want to support you all with all of your great ideas and causes. I was at the animal shelter fundraiser last night. I stayed the entire time. I had a great time supporting our community members on a great cause. The shelter is actually one of those things that came up for renewal while I was mayor, and that was another fight to try to get funding from our general fund to support it, but we were able to keep it open. There are many causes. Gene Sweeney Open Space Park, another great effort we're very fortunate to have. Small business. I'm having multiple events there at our small businesses. That's intentional. We need to support our small businesses to keep them. Sadly, we've lost quite a few businesses. We know that. And right now is a great opportunity for me to really step up and support them by having my events at our small businesses, where we can really make a difference in helping them out. So I want to support you all in making our community the best it can be. My primary points, again, are in regards to safety. We need to live in a safe environment. We need to be able to leave our house in the morning. Well, first of all, we need to be able to go out of our house in the morning and have our car still there with a catalytic converter. Then we need to be able to go out and about in our way and feel safe. Our children have the right to go out and about, play in our parks, and feel safe. It's very, very important. And I had mentioned earlier, I had parked at Shoreline and Grand to walk to a menorah lighting up at Rittler. It was during the day, and I was chased and then physically assaulted at Rittler with other people around. It's a very serious problem. and many of you know this is happening. So we must rein in safety so we can continue to have, this amazing town. The traffic we have to deal with. We are driving our cars. You all raised your hand. We have to figure out how to continue to move safely throughout our town. And then housing. I support housing for the middle. It's very hard to get developers to do that. They want to do the extremes, what they are required to by law. And so thank you very much.
Time's up. Thank you. And finally, Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft.
Thank you. And again, thank you to the Alameda Post and all of you for putting this on today. And thank you for all of you for being here, my fellow candidates. So I grew up in Alameda. I went all through public schools here, Edison, Lincoln, Alameda High. This last June in 2022, it was such an honor when the senior class, the class of 2022, invited me to be their graduation speaker. And I told them I never would have imagined that a shy, nerdy girl that I was would ever have been standing up at the stage on Thompson Field speaking to the graduating class, their parents and teachers. It was a thrill. But I also told them to dream big and don't say no and see potential, say yes, because you never know what's in store for you. And we all have the potential to give back. We all have talents and treasures, and we can share them with others. So my husband, I went away to college, went away to law school, got to live overseas for a year, but eventually I came back. I was married. My husband and I have raised our now 31-year-old twins who are not in the area anymore here, but they would tell you it was a great place to grow up, and Alameda is still a great place to grow up, and we can make it an even greater place. I was happy to get involved back in 2000 when I co-chaired the campaign to build our new main library and renovate our 2 branch libraries, and 2 years later I was asked to chair the campaign to save Alameda Hospital, and we still have a hospital, and it served us well during the pandemic. So speaking of the pandemic, as I said at the start, we had some rough years when we just really didn't have a playbook to know what we were doing, but we learned as we went. I was a part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I've been active in the League of California Cities, chaired a statewide policy committee on housing, community, and economic development. So I've got some background when I talk about the possibilities of what we can do, what we must do for housing. But the mayors, we all learned from each other. I chaired the Alameda County Mayors Conference, and we are stronger together. We're stronger together. That's why Alameda is one of 30 different cities and agencies that are working hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, to address sea level rise and climate change, because then that includes the cities of San Leandro and Oakland, our neighbors, the Port of Oakland, East Bay Regional Parks District. These kinds of issues know no jurisdictional boundaries, so we have to work together, and that's how we're going to solve them, and we are. My priorities will continue to be housing, transportation, and addressing climate change and sea level rise, because they are all interrelated. And I also am proud that we have, at my behest, we have dug out the lawn at City Hall and put in beautiful native plants. We're doing the same at City Hall West, and we are going to save over 1 million gallons of water a year. And I thank you all, and I encourage you to stay active, be active, do it civilly, but we need all of us. Thank you.
So on behalf of the Alameda Post, I really want to thank all of you for being here today, and I would like to thank also the audience for being here and participating in our future. And our next the council forum will be starting at 3:30, so we hope you'll all stay for that as well. Thank you again.
Thank you also for these nice individual microphones, very thoughtfully done.